Okay guys, welcome back to Everdream. It's been a solid minute since I've done any sort of video, so I would like to apologize. I've been dealing with life and stuff, but I'm back. And we're starting a new series in which we're going to cover some characters from the very popular manga and anime Blue Lock. And I recently got into Blue Lock and it's pretty good. And by pretty good, I mean I love it. Like I couldn't get enough of it. Anyway, we're going to be covering some various characters from the Blue Lock series. 4 in particular, the Egoist 4. That is of course Isagi, Bachira, Chigiri and Konigami. And we're gonna start off with Isagi because he's the GOAT. I wouldn't say he's my favorite character, but he's up there. And honestly, he's on his way to becoming my favorite character. I definitely enjoy the story from his point of view, and what we're gonna do with him is we are gonna look at his skill sets and his playstyle. Now, the Blue Lock manga isn't finished yet, so the characters are still evolving in what they can do and what they can perform. So we're just going to talk about everything we know about him so far, talk about his current trajectory, where he's heading to, and just basically generalize his playstyle, like how he likes to approach football and other things. So if you are new here, please click the like button and subscribe. If not, you already know what to do. Alright guys, without wasting any more time, let's get into the video. Let's start off with his overall physicality, his physicality as an athlete and as a striker. Or rather as a wannabe striker. I think he's still an OFM at the time of this recording. So Isagi's build and physique. Isagi is surprisingly quite athletic. I mean, he wouldn't have made it to Blue Lock if he weren't, but the reason I say surprise is because a lot of people seem to rate Isagi as being very bad on a purely physical level. He's not, he's average. There is a world of difference between these two perceptions of the character. While not being exceptional in terms of physical ability, being quite short while possessing a very small frame, Isagi is far from being rock bottom purely based on athleticism. Though in truth he is on the bottom tier, as his physical skills range all over the place, from weak to average to decent in various categories. Now, all this is to set the record straight when looking at Isagi in the light of being a purely physical player. He's not impressive, but he's not the absolute worst either. Moving on from pure brawn to technical skills, and we pretty much have the same. As a technical player, Isagi's skills range from weak to average to decent once again, all rounding up to make him a very unnoticeable player, and one who wouldn't even be able to get into the world of professional football based on pure technical ability, as his best skill, his shooting, while being actually very good, is interceptional. Other skills such as his passing and his dribbling are generally quite lackluster. Now, what does a guy like him bring to the table? As we know, Isagi's main weapon is his spatial awareness, and what that is just a term used to describe the skill of being aware of your surroundings. Now, every player has this skill because every player has every skill. I keep reminding people whenever I discuss this show that there are no superpowers in this show. Every weapon we've seen is only a weapon because that particular player chose to hone a particular skill to such a degree that it can be used to force a goal, or as they say in Blue Lock, turn 0 to 1. In Isagi's case, his sense of spatial awareness is dialed all the way up to 11. While most players can only keep track of what's happening with the ball and their immediate surroundings, Isagi can keep track of a good portion of the field at all times. And the way this is described is that he can sort of visualize the field from an almost bird's eye point of view, like he's seeing the game as a third-party observer rather than a player. And this degree of spatial understanding is only possible because of two things. The first is that Isagi is very observant, and the second is that he's very good at processing what he is observing. Now, this ability to mark where different players are on the field in itself isn't an offensive or even a defensive skill. Rather, it's a skill that can serve to greatly bolster his offensive and defensive plays. And this is where we get into the core of the video. Isagi is a playmaker through and through. That's how he likes to play football, and that's how he asserts himself on the field. Not by being stronger or having a more superior offensive weapon than his opponents, but by reading the field a lot better than they do and being in the best position to impact the game. Positioning, or if you will, tactics, is the core of his playstyle. Having the skills to read the field being only part one of the formula. The other part is plotting out a strategy that will lead to a goal. And the best example I can give to better understand what I'm talking about is coincidentally the very first time we see Isagi's special weapon in action. So the first time we are shown the special weapon is in Team Z's first game against Team X, and we all know what happened. They are down 5-0, Isagi has the ball, Baro is moving to intercept, Kunigami and Raichi are to either side of Isagi waiting for a pass, and he chooses to pass to Kunigami, who was being marked at the time, and not Raichi, who was open. Now, there are a lot of things going on in this scene, but the key thing to take away is that this pass Isagi makes was not without reasoning, and by that I mean Isagi didn't just decide to pass to Kunigami without having a clear vision of what he thought would happen. He had a plan. And we know this because later on, when asked about it, Isagi was able to break down his reasoning for doing this. And this is the core aspect of the character. The ability he uses to create this spatial awareness, which is his fast processing speed, is also what allows him to use the weapon as effectively as he can. In a moment, Isagi can come up with a quick, logical, and actionable plan based on the information his eyes can perceive. And this is what we see happen. Isagi sees Raichi is open but concludes that passing to him would do no good, as Raichi will still have to contend with Baro, and from what he knew about the hothead through his training, Raichi just didn't have the skills to dribble past a beast like Baro on his own. However, Kunigami had both the physique to keep the ball from being stolen and the shooting range to avoid a confrontation with Baro altogether, and that was why the ball was passed to him. And the fact that this entire decision making happened in a literal split second speaks volume of his overwhelming talent as a playmaker. Seriously, Baro was pressing this guy hard. Pause. Isagi only had a moment to think of a plan and action on it, which he did. Any other person would have done the obvious thing, which would have been to pass to the unmarked player, but Isagi isn't just anyone. We speak of and we praise players like Bachira because they have a million different ways to cut past the defender. But unfortunately, some of us ignore and underestimate a player like Isagi who can cook up a million different ways to break through an enemy's formation. Isagi is a genius at playing the field, forcing an opening in opponents' defenses with just a series of well-timed passes, good field of vision, and an understanding of the players of the field, himself and his teammates included. But despite all I've said so far, none of that makes him capable of being a worthy striker if he couldn't use it to score goals. His goals. I mentioned his formula previously as being good field of vision and tactical decision making, but this formula by itself can only really consistently lead to good assists. In order to score goals, Isagi had to add one more puzzle piece into the mix, the direct shot. Now, unlike the rest of Isagi's skill set, Isagi's shooting ability is actually quite decent. It's not lackluster nor is it average, it's in fact very good. And Isagi knows this, he therefore leverages this ability with his special weapon to pull off his direct shot. And the reason Isagi goes to all the trouble playing like this in the first place is out of necessity. You see, unlike Kunigami, he can't just hold the ball, nor does he have any crazy shooting range or insane speed. So in order to keep scoring consistently, when the time to shoot comes, he has to be able to take this shot instantly, not even sparing a moment to trap the ball. Creating this small window of space and timing where the ball can't be stolen is how Isagi guarantees his goal. This is the formula, the current formula, completed. The spatial awareness times the direct shot equals goal. But despite how clear-cut this formula is, it isn't the end-all be-all of his soccer playstyle. It isn't perfect. It isn't this magical thing that lets him score every single time. But this is largely because of the various obstacles he has to face. Those obstacles being other players. Other people aren't just going to let him shoot. He is competing against different people, all of them top strikers after all. Some faster than him, some stronger, some with vision just on par with his. So creating this small window is a lot easier said than done. And now that the stakes are rising in Blue Lock with the current remaining participants on the precipice of entering the world stage, everyone has had to up their game. Everyone is moving faster, has more weapons, and playing generally more efficiently. And Isagi has had to adapt to this increase in difficulty just like anyone else, and he has done this by adding more and more weapons to his arsenal, and the first of this is his off-the-ball movement skill. Now, this skill is Isagi's answer to a one-on-one situation. It is also the skill that Blue Lock's ace striker, Otoya, the ninja, possesses. And what this skill does is that it allows Isagi to go toe-to-toe with some of the best strikers on the planet, not by overpowering them, but by outmaneuvering them. Basically, Isagi picks a target he has to go up against, then makes sure he is in a better position to intercept the passed ball than they are. That's pretty much it. It's that simple. But just like any weapon, Isagi has had to hone this basic skill to a level where he can use it to challenge anyone and to score goals. And he did this by factoring things that people don't normally consider, such as a defender's line of sight. He is able to envision a defender's line of view and use his blind spots to his advantage, either moving completely out of view of the defender so that he can steal a ball, or using his presence inside the defender's blind spot to cause him to react, only for Isagi to move in the opposite direction as the defender turns, effectively getting clear of his mark and opening the path to receive a passed ball. This is actually one of the more interesting soccer skills out there. But this isn't the only way Isagi has leveled up. In addition to improving his sense of positioning and off-the-ball movement, he has also drastically improved his spatial awareness, refining it into what is now known as metavision. Now, let's go back to the beginning of this video when I was explaining spatial awareness. I said it was an ability to envision the field from an almost bird's eye point of view, using all the information gleaned from our surrounding. And this explanation is still accurate. This is spatial awareness. Metavision, on the other hand, takes this a step further by intentionally and consistently paying as little attention to the ball as possible and instead focusing on everything else. Everything else being player positioning on the field, even the ones not really influencing the game in the moment, as well as each individual player's field of vision and vision of the field. And what I mean by this is that Isagi is not just keeping track of where players are and what they are looking at, but also what they themselves are thinking to do. And yes, I said all 22 players, as Isagi also turns everything he knows about himself and his abilities to data along with everyone else's. And because of the sheer level of focus being put into the skill, it naturally has clear advantages over spatial awareness, the three most noticeable being: while spatial awareness can only see a sizably large portion of the field, metavision can see the entire thing. Secondly, where spatial awareness requires time to process changes in the field, and this is probably the most important part, metavision does not, processing changes in the field in real time. And lastly, Isagi can predict the actions of almost anyone on the field. And I've done my best to sort of illustrate how Isagi sees the field with metavision, in contrast to spatial awareness. But the truth is that metavision deserves its own video just because of how confusing it initially is, especially for casual readers. But if this video does well, I will probably make one going deeper into metavision. I don't want to make this video longer than it already is, so with that, we'll just make deal with this explanation for now. The key thing to note is that Isagi has almost no blind spots now, and because of the sheer volume of information he is receiving constantly, he is able to predict the movements of every player on the field. Now, what does all this mean in terms of actually influencing the game? Well, everything. Not only does Isagi have a lot more information to work with, which actually allows him to make better plays and pull off tactical maneuvers that other players could never see coming, metavision also drastically improves Isagi's play speed as well. Now, most people are familiar with the doctrine by the fan base, and that is that Isagi is slow. Well, like I said earlier on, he really isn't, he's just average speed. But even this is only in regards to his top running speed. If we take a look at his stats, and I mean his full stats, the one that most people don't really pay attention to, Isagi has always had good reaction speed. This is in large part because of his great field of vision. But now that that field of vision is on steroids and Isagi is thinking on an almost computer-like level, he has vastly, and I mean vastly, improved his reaction speed to the point where players like Chigiri have to go all out to keep up with his offensive plays. Let me put this another way. If it takes a player with average spatial awareness like, let's say Chigiri for example, 3 seconds to process what's going on around him when his opponents are making a play, Isagi was already on the move a second ago, already knowing where he needs to be and what he needs to be doing. And this precious few seconds is all the difference in impacting a game. And this is the main reason most people, especially those who don't have a speed ranking in the S tier, have trouble keeping up with Isagi, simply because he has perfect understanding of the field at all times, and at all times he knows what he needs to be doing and where he needs to go to get his goal. His offensive is as high as it is for a reason, and the speed of his plays and the logic behind said plays and the certainty of his movements can blitz through almost any defense in an instant. And this is the core of Isagi's playstyle: overwhelming offense through overwhelming tactical foresight. Despite this, however, Isagi as a player still isn't undisputed, mostly because he's still limited by his physical abilities. He's still restricted by his need to depend on quick plays like his direct shots, as he can't really count on his ball holding skills or his dribbling. So despite the fact that he can visualize success so clearly, he still has very limited ways of actually making his visions a reality. So what does he do? Well, now that he has perfected the core of his playstyle to a class worthy of the world stage, Isagi is now polishing all the skills he needs to best draw out his preferred playstyle. His shooting in particular is currently undergoing his full attention, and he's made good progress, improving his overall shooting ability, as well as gaining the skill to accurately pull off his direct shot with his weak foot, that being his left foot. And I know most fans who don't really follow real world football might be confused or unimpressed as to the significance of this, and why it's being treated as a big deal is it mostly means that Isagi is a lot less predictable when in the goal area, as he has more options to work with. A player who only has the option of one foot can always be counted on using that one foot. And if you know what's coming, any decent goalkeeper can stop it, because it's easy to predict the trajectory of the ball. For example, right-footed players would always favor shooting to the left side of the net, so half the keeper's job is done already, as he only needs to protect the area of the net that is actually in danger. But with the option of the other foot, Isagi can shoot in any way he wants to, without ever having to waste time readjusting himself to his dominant foot, and he knows this. And true to what we expect of Isagi, he even uses this to his advantage, feinting like he's going to shoot from his right foot, only to switch to the left, eliminating the weakness of being predictable in the penalty zone. But this is far from his only point of improvement, most likely due to playing as an offensive midfielder in Bastard Munchen. Isagi's passing skill has probably had the most significant improvements of all his physical skills, going from a C-class bare-bones passer to around the E-class range in the length of time he's been in the Neo-Egoist League. And truly, he now has more control over the ball and can now pass it around the field with better range and accuracy than ever before, a skill that opens up more offensive options for him and his teammates. And in further addition to all this, his top running speed has also had improvements, with his footwork in particular being polished enough to seamlessly better pull off his off-the-ball movement trick whenever he wants to, against whoever he wants to. All in all, Isagi is starting to come into his own as a complete striker, building his skill sets around his meta vision and his high offensive abilities. It won't be long now till his physical abilities finally catch up to the plays he has always wished he could make. And I for one can't wait to see it. Isagi is a character that I feel the most pleasure from watching grow into his own as a professional athlete. And as he grows, so too does my excitement for his next big play. We have now come to the end of this video, and I hope I was able to answer the question of what exactly Yoichi brings to the table, which of course, as we've discussed, is his excellent sense of spatial awareness, fantastic positioning and off-the-ball movements, as he is an offensive specialist. He knows where he needs to be and how he needs to move to get past the opponent's defenses. His good passing ability, he's able to move the ball across the field with greater finesse now. And of course, he's a great shooter as he has excellent finishing ability. He's a great finisher. But just as there are merits, there are also demerits, and Isagi unfortunately brings two, which are his poor ball holding skills. That is, he lacks power to bully bigger players off the ball or to make a good press for control of the ball. And he's pretty flat-footed, and by that I mean he has bare bones dexterity regarding his dribbling, though it is improving. And even though I'm sure Isagi would eventually round off his weaknesses, I doubt he'll ever get his dribbling or his power to the points where it might be on the A-class level. Maybe high B-class is what I'm picturing for the character. He will still make good improvements, but it's mostly the areas he's good at that he will grow exponentially, which are as we've mentioned, spatial awareness, passing and shooting. And of course, strictly speaking about his end of series stats, Isagi, as he grows professionally, would eventually have a rank dribbling, a rank power, but as I'm picturing the series ending in the U20 World Cup, so I don't think he'll go into that with a rank dribbling or a rank power. But I am expecting his top running speed to be in the A rank by the time of the World Cup, if it isn't already right now, because it's been a while since we've seen the Blue Lock character stat sheet. Now, hopefully this video was well worth your time, and you can expect me to cover the other members of the Eagles for sometime soon. Next up is likely Bachara. As usual, if you enjoyed my video, please leave a like, rating and subscribe to my channel for more. Also, please share my video as it does help me get more views, which is more than enough incentive that I need to keep making these videos. I would also like to hear your opinions regarding Isagi. What do you guys think of him before watching this video, and what do you think of him now? Please let me know in the comment section below. And with all this said, I'll see you guys later. Keep safe.